Fuck Graham Hancock. Oh, can I say that on the show?
It's that Ninja Turtle, yo. I'm half Barney, half Ninja Turtle. I karate you, you karate me. Hi-ya!
Oh gosh. Right, hello. Willkommen, bienvenue, konnichiwa, ni hao, jambo, marhaba. It's time for the Amish Inquisition yet again, episode 292 on Sunday, the 13th of August, 2023. I'm Phil.
I'm Matt.
And tonight we're glad to be joined by our mate Ryan. Ryan7, how are you doing, Ryan?
I'm all right, buddy. Glad to be here, as per usual.
Yeah, well, we just looked before we started, and it's been 5 months since we did a deep dive on Mithras and the Tauroctony. And that week we were meant to do a show on the tarot, but you got bitten by the Mithraic bug.
Yes. There's still a little bit of Mithras to clear up, I'm afraid. But yeah, he'll show his face.
Which bit of him?
His face, funnily enough. We'll see. We'll see later on. It's really cool, actually. Yeah, just a little snippet of Mithras in here, but yeah, we're gonna dive deeper into the tarot, a lot deeper.
Okay. So yeah, because I remember last time we looked, we did a bit about the history, and we took some of your example cards, didn't we, and sort of broke down the esoteric meanings of various.
Yeah. We looked at the structure. We'll go over this very briefly at the beginning, but we looked over the structure and we looked over some of the less pop culture aspects of them. But we didn't get too deep. It was just a good overview, particularly about the history and how they've been derived in the first place.
Right. So, what is it about the tarot that has got you excited about today and come and share with us?
Oh, vengeance!
Vengeance.
Vengeance. It's the spirit of revenge. So I was talking to a friend, acquaintance of mine, author PD Newman. All right, PD. I don't know your real name. We're just on Facebook. And he had been posting some tarot cards up, and he's well known for publishing books on esoterica, available at all good bookstores. And he had an opinion which I found deeply insulting, frustrating, and valid. He's an esotericist, and he knows his stuff. And he also loves tarot. And he'd said, "No, I believe it's just a game. I'm quite strongly opinionated about this. I believe it's a game." I'm like, "You of all people." He's like, "Write a book about it." And I'm like, "I'm writing a book. It's going to take a while." So I've had this podcast coming up. I was going to pretty much do it on this subject. So I'm choosing to focus in on this question of, or two sides of an argument. It's tarot is just a card game, and tarot contains the mysteries of the ancients.
Right. Well, I mean, I can see some sort of logical progression there. If we associate the tarot and its evolution into the standard playing deck that we all use to play card games.
Yep.
So I would say, just to throw a spanner in the works, these things aren't mutually exclusive. It could be a game that has lots of esoteric or spiritual or lost knowledge encoding within it.
Oh, yeah, that is what I think. Yeah.
I guess what the crux is, PD is saying it's just a game.
It's the word just.
Right, that's what's
the word
stuck in your
just.
craw.
Yeah, no, it's valid. He's a top guy, but, passions were flared.
Your honor was insulted, was it?
And then it's like, well, I've got a week to prep for this, and 40 odd slides came out of it, as we were saying before.
Yeah.
But we're going to use the skill of brevity, the superpower of quick wit, and we're going to just through these.
Right, cool. All right. Well, do you want to start
Should we
now?
just
Is there
crack on, yeah.
Do you want to go to the slides?
Yes, please, sir.
I've got a little window. That should be the first slide, Ryan. Does that look
Excellent.
correct?
Yes, that looks correct to me. Now, I want to go over something quickly that will absolutely pay off later, and then I want you to completely forget about it. Excuse me.
Wow.
Jeez.
This is fantastic. I didn't even think that was going to come out, so I would have gone round the other way. I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. Let that be a sign of the kind of shambles that's coming up.
This nearest red button.
Yes,
That is
it's
the
a mute.
It's the mute button
Thank
for
you. I
your
couldn't have got
microphone.
there fast enough, mate. Honestly.
If you feel anything coming,
Yeah, I will. I went.
That's
I
tickled
got
me there.
that far away from my mouth to cover it up.
this is a serious podcast.
It's a
for fuck's
serious
sake.
podcast.
Yeah.
Everybody knows I take myself lightly. Certainly take you two lightly. Right. So I want you to imagine you're a medieval person, and the printing press has been recently invented, and you're the poor sod that's got to carve all the wood blocks out. Now, you're going to need a template to work by. And so what you do is you get lots of pins in a circle. This circle is actually made up of 28 little dots, but we can just put 7 on there if we want to. And as you see on the internet, when people make images from strings and nails in boards, you've seen that, and they'll twist them around and they'll make pretty patterns.
Right, yeah.
So they're using those. This is what I think. We'll get into this later on. They're using those, and as we can see on the screen, you can see where there would be pins and where there would be strings. And if we go on to the next image, when I've removed all the excess, that's what we get. We get a perfect outline of these tarot cards from a wood block. Easy peasy. Makes sense, really, doesn't it?
Right, so they're the only pins you need to create that image. I'm kind of
We don't need to go into it right now. It's just a very simple concept that you can get pins and strings and use those strings as guidelines.
and then you can carve it.
And then you
template.
can carve in templates.
Right, got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy. Done. We'll go back to this later on. It'll totally pay off. I just want to get that concept into people's minds. Right, now, forget everything I said. Let's go on to the actual presentation proper.
Do you want to go forward a slide?
Yes, please. Okay, these are tarot cards. We've got 4 sets of 3 cards, and see if we go to the top left, this is the Fool from 3 different decks, and each one's going to be from 3 different decks.
Right.
We've got the Visconti deck from early Italy, mid-1400s. Then there's, I think that's the Jean Dodal, French Marseille version, which is a couple of 150 years later. And then early 20th century, the Fool, that's the Edward Waite deck, the famous Rider-Waite deck.
Is that A.E. Waite?
A. Waite, Arthur Edward Waite, yeah.
Right, he's someone who I need to get on. But
Yeah.
All right.
I know you got a few books by him, don't you? Yes. So in the top left, the first three, that's the Fool. If we go down one from that, that's the famous Hanged Man. Top right, we got the Magician, or the Scribe, as he was also known. And the bottom right, we've got the Devil. That first Devil card, I think, is a repaint. Because they lost. They did. I don't think they have any devils from the original decks.
Can I just clarify? Is that Visconti deck the famous sort of earliest deck
It's
from
the
like
first
the
deck? And on this,
Medici era?
if you'd like to just put all our faces. Oh no, we got faces. Could you put us all back on
Sure,
for one sec?
like that.
There you go.
Oh, cool!
That's for you.
Wow.
Wow.
I'll just show it up to the camera. Look there, the Visconti
That's the
Forza deck.
Sforza deck, the first deck that we know of. It was a gift between a wedding
wedding
couple,
gift?
yeah, in Milan.
Excellent.
It's beautiful. No, it's for you.
Oh, really?
These are your
thanks.
tarot.
I'm gonna have to give you something now.
You gave me beer, that'll do.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much.
Oh, you're welcome, mate.
Right, I shall check that out later. Okay, I'll go back to the slideshow. So yeah, we've got the 4 different cards of various configurations there.
Yeah, and that's it. As I said, brevity is going to be a tool here. I just wanted to
yeah.
let everybody have a quick look at what we're dealing with.
Right. So, I'm moving
So
on.
here we go. Tarot. Chill, it's only a game, brah. Versus, no, it's full of the magics.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's crack on. Let's keep going.
That's the name of the presentation.
The presentation. Right, Phil, you can be this person if you want to read this out.
All right. So the title, the game of Tarocchi or
Tarocchi Trionfi.
Tarocchi Trionfi. Origin in Mamluk cards.
So we did say last time that they were the Mamluk Egyptian Arabs, and they'd invented this game of, well, I don't know if it had a name, but they invented the card deck as it was, as we use it now. Although our root of it's come through the tarot finds its root in these cards by the Mamluks.
Right.
Simple
And
as
the
that.
Mamluks were a Muslim dynasty that ruled parts of the Middle East. And
And Africa, and all over the shop. Yeah.
Right, so origin in Mamluk cards, a wedding gift between the Visconti Sforza families in the 1450s in Milan.
Yes.
Tarocchi, Trionfi,
So-
Triumphs.
I've actually put Tarocchi.
Tarot.
You got to do this as well. Come on,
Tarocchi.
Tarocchi. You've got to do that because.
Vaffanculo.
Yep. See, that's all you need. really.
Trionfi.
Tarocchi,
So,
Triumfi.
question mark, because nobody knows the origin of it. I actually think it's in gematria, which is transposing numbers for letters, but we're not getting
Okay.
to that right now. Also called trionfi for the triumphs. We get trumps from it, like top trumps. It is
right.
top trumps. So triumphs means success in battle, spiritual victory, and a victory procession.
Like the Romans, famously,
they had
the triumphs.
Yeah, basically like a parade, isn't it?
Yep.
Like what do we call them over here? I can't remember.
A pageant,
Carnival.
carnival,
Yeah.
right?
Carnival.
You know, when everyone comes past on floats and they're all doing stuff that stems back to them. What's the next thing? Sorry.
So depictions are well-known cultural hierarchs and concepts of the time. So Fool, Pope, Wheel of Fortune, Death, for example.
Self-explanatory.
Yeah.
These are all relatively well known. Relatively. And they're still quite well known now. If people, this game show called The Wheel of Fortune, we know who Death, the figure of Death, is.
And possibly archetypes as well, like Jungian style archetypes maybe could be
I'd
implanted
absolutely
in
apply that, but because we're doing the counter argument here before we begin,
Okay.
they would say they're not archetypes.
Top trumps mixed with shithead, 2v2.
So 2v2 is 2 people per team,
Right.
and they basically play. You know, you guys have played Shithead, surely.
Yeah, we played
It's
shithead.
called lots of different things all over the world. You'll have to look it up. But it's a game where you pick a suit and then you're popping down cards in a ascending order.
And in that game, your idea is to collect all the cards, to be the last person with all the cards.
Yeah,
generally
and
share.
it's the same here. It's the team with, when you
It's
count
okay.
them up, they got the highest score.
Get rid of them in our shithead, don't we?
Yeah, you kind of
Sorry,
like
get rid
chucking
of
them off, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. It's been a while. Many variations still played all over Europe except Britain and Spain, curiously. The simplified European card deck comes via Tarocchi.
Tarocchi.
Right, so
Tarocchi.
the standard 52 card deck is derived from this.
Yeah.
Great. The trumps are very complex for such a simple game, having no special function, fool aside.
So this occurred to me on the way down as well. So you've got 21 and a fool, what's called the trumps, which are different to the normal playing cards. None of them are numbered.
No.
There's an expected sequence, but none of them are numbered. And this is a game of top trumps. So it's top trumps without the stats on it. That wouldn't happen.
Could it be that the number system has been lost because we have Jack, Queen, King, and we all know that King is the highest, Queen is the middle?
Well, the Emperor, the King, is one of the lower cards in this.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So there is an order, an obvious order in the hierarchy of the cards by examining the symbols on there, basically, and the characters. But you've got 20 odd cards that are trumping each other, but have no vital stats on that, i.e. their actual number in an order. And early on in the game, the order was not quite established, it seems.
Okay.
It seems.
For homework, I'd be interested to know why Britain and Spain are the two countries highlighted there. There might be some historical reason there, but maybe we'll save that for another time.
I just don't know.
I think there must
homework it out.
It's
Like
to
you
do with
said,
the
yeah.
Reformation or something.
Well, Spain's Catholic.
Yeah, but they had the
Inquisition?
Yeah.
Good point. Inquisition maybe play a card.
Play a card.
Play a role. Yes, heresy.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll see.
It's an interesting question. Right. So my counter argument to this, put simply, is the tarot contains the ancient mysteries. And I'm going to argue that through the rest of this presentation.
Right.
There's not much more to add to that. It's a card game. I show you the rules of the card game. There you go. Excuse me. I'm going to press this button.
Oh, he's muting himself while he has a windy pop. You feel better?
I'm not sure you even muted yourself before, did you?
Did I not? Did I mute Phil and Bev, Tony?
It's fine.
We're terrible
happening.
round here. It's backwards up north.
Do we need to read this bit out, or should we?
Right. I'll just read it quickly.
Okay.
Okay. What are the ancient mysteries? It's important to establish this before I can prove what they are. So I'm going to put this very simply. Now, a lot of this is going to be a surprise to most of you because it's taken me years to figure out just what the hell it is. But most experts would agree that the mysteries are death and rebirth rituals, sex, drugs, and a set of harmonic maths that they recorded by putting it into the stars, and by that they put it into the calendars. The stars are the calendars. They're like the rituals and the rites of the old god Saturn. It's this Bronze Age, Neolithic stroke Bronze Age cult religion. It's this hidden religion that's behind all the modern religions. Of course it would be. It's from the Stone Age. Right. As the main symbols of this, you get serpents and poles. We'll know the caduceus, we'll know a snake on a stick, we'll know Moses with a brazen serpent. There are so many, poles and snakes in religious symbology. Right. So the mysteries are a hologramic representation of Psyche through calendrical cosmic maps, as above, so below. So as we know, the zodiac itself could be seen as a wheel of psychology.
Yeah, Hamlet's wheel.
Hamlet's mill, all that stuff. It's all about time, rebirth, death. It's a map of the year divided up into psychological aspects. The summer of your life is much like the summer of the year. You're full of energy, it's heat. You can get too hot, you might get a bit violent, you might get a bit too saucy. Do you know what I mean? Whatever it'll be. B, It's a methodology for gaining temporary immortality by use of drugs in sex rites for gnosis, healing, and prophecy. So gnosis is similar to prophecy. You're going to another place in these rites on these substances, and you are getting revealings, downloads, whatever you want to call it. Gnosis. This is the word for it. Same as knowledge, just with a G. From that, you'll get healing, and obviously the prophecy comes with that. In fact, when you look at some of the more ancient Bronze Age mysteries, especially at the root of the Medes from Medea and magic and all these guys, they are actually making oracles. They're taking, even pre-birth sometimes, they're starting you on things like snake venom and opiates and all these. They are programming you with chemicals until they get these people who have lost their mortality and are no oracles. The past and the future are clear to them right here and now. That's what an oracle is. Like the Sphinx, which is the past, present, and future all bound up together in one. C. The symbols of this are snakes and poles, used secretly by Egyptians, Sumerians, Persians, Chinese, Jews, Mayans, Masons, Templars, alchemists, Druids, everybody. They were all using it. You go back long enough, or you look deep down enough, they're using poles and serpents. The serpents, we'll get into it all later. Right. The last thing, D, is when the poles are combined with calendars, a sacred mathematics is revealed, and ancient architecture, music, and time is derived from this set of numbers. And we're going to briefly look at all these points to prove my point and show you how they're in the tarot.
And architecture, music, time are all related. This is the geometry, isn't it?
Yep. This cosmos means order. It doesn't. I know we think of it being out there, and it is, but it's in down here as well. It just means order, the order of the universe, and that's what that maths is.
Right. It's something we said earlier on another show about geometry. You know, architecture is geometry in sort of space, and music is geometry in time.
Yeah, you can put it the other way around as well.
Yeah.
Geometry is frozen music.
So's architecture. So yeah, that David Elkinson book, The Sacred Language of Sacred Sound. I think you'd enjoy that. It's a really good book on this sort of area. But anyway, moving on.
So the first point was that the cosmos, the maps of this ancient psyche, ancient psychology and the cosmos, it's all the same thing. And this is one part of the mystery traditions. We can see on this map here, we've got what would be the Earth in the center. We got Mount Meru coming off it, which is just the same as Olympus and all these other things. You climb through this ladder, Jacob's ladder. It goes, these are the orbits of the planets. So if you got a slow orbit, then you're close. If you got a long orbit, you're at a distance. That does happen to be true. And the planets are pretty much in this sequence, apart from the sun, which obviously they thought was spinning around us rather than us spinning around it. This beer is very gassy. So we got the moon, Venus, Mars, the sun. Then we got, sorry, not Mars, the sun. I'll start again. We got the moon, Mercury, Venus, the sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Then we got the band of stars, which is where the zodiac is. They saw them as being fixed because they don't move in comparison to each other, which is what the planets do. And then we've got a portal, essentially, at the pole to the ethereal realm where, it's the Platonic imaginal realm. This is all Platonism. It all starts from Plato.
Right.
This is literally a description of his concepts of the universe. And you can trace that back to those Medes we were talking about. And it goes deep, but we're not going to go there right now. What I want to say is, just like the chakra, it's the same concept. There are 7 chakra, there are 7 planets. They go up the body. If we look on the image on the left, there's a medieval conception of where the planets sit in the body, and we can see they're just pretty much going up the spine as the same as they were in the East. That's because there are 7 nerve branches that come from your spine that control you, just like the ancients saw fate by these 7 planets Fate's controlled in your body. Fate's controlled in the heavens. It's all as above, so below. It's all
This
the
is
same
why you
stuff.
called Ryan 7, isn't it?
It-
Because seven colours of the rainbow.
It's coincidental, but yeah.
7 notes in the octave, 7 I ams of Jesus Christ.
All that stuff.
It goes on and on and
On and on and on. Yeah, absolutely. Very integral.
Okay.
We'll actually see why it's 7. I mean, not just because of that. That is one reason, but they saw that in the maths of 7.
Oh, we're going to Pythagorean number theory.
Oh, we will. Yes, very,
Oh,
very,
excellent. I
very
love
quickly
that.
as well.
Should we move on?
Yeah. Oh, look, Pythagorean
shit.
number theory. Right, so we're going to do this bit quickly, because we already went over this in the last episode. But the major arcana, not the major arcana, the tarot cards, as the Mamluk cards, are pretty much based on a calendar. So I've got a list in this top right in lilac. It's not purple, that's lilac. Put 4 aces or suits. The 4 suits are the 4 seasons. We've got 40 number cards. 4 minus 4 aces is 36 deacons or 360 degrees in a circle.
Yeah.
The 36 plus 4 and 1 fool is 365 days a year, because you've got 36 plus 5, if you get me there.
Yep.
36 plus 4 aces is 364 days in a lunar year.
Yeah.
36 plus 16 court cards. There are 16 court cards. I know we have 12 in ours, don't we?
Right, but they had more.
They have
court
one more
cards.
in each suit.
Got you.
Yeah. So 36 plus 16 court cards is 52 weeks in a year. On and on and on. There's many more than I've put there, but we can see how very simply playing about with these different sets of cards, we're getting calendrical numbers.
Yep.
Right. We've also got 4 suits. We've got staves, cups, swords, and coins. These are from the very first deck, this Visconti Northern Italian deck from Milan.
What's a stave?
So a stave's a pointy stick,
Right.
or you could say mace.
Okay.
Right. So in a modern deck, that would be clubs, a club, hearts for cups. Swords is spades. Espada in Spanish is a sword.
Oh.
So spade. I'm sure it's the same in Italian, because that's probably where it's come from.
Mm.
And coins are
Diamonds.
Diamonds. All makes sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. So let this make further sense, because these are the Platonic first 4 numbers in the Pythagorean number theory things. And I'll tell you from a different perspective first, because I'm a martial artist, and in the Eastern martial arts, they use the 4, sometimes 5 elements, but they got the 4 elements. A strike, a pointy stick, and a straight line are all considered fire. Bang is fire. Water would be like a grab, like a cup. I am cupping you. It would be. That's a good throw. That. A weapon of the water element would be a chain or a rope or something like that.
Right,
a
yeah.
rot. Do you get me?
Yeah.
Aikido is an air element martial art, and everything they do is sword based. The throws are sword based. Everything's sword.
Man, this is in Japan, man.
Yeah, this is in Japan. They do it in China. So my own personal martial art uses this system as well. You know, it's just the way it is. And people that are saying, anyone that says, you know, there's no mysticism in there. Well, I appreciate that this is the worldview back then and the cosmos back then, but this is pretty bloody high knowledge, and this is only a card game.
What's the coin martial art?
It would be a
connection?
shield, as it is on many actual tarot decks. It's a shield. So let's just describe the actual metaphysic of each of these cards quickly. So we've just said fire, a straight line, burning, energy, the principle of energy, the number 1.
Yep.
The thing that everything's made up of is energy, and the number 1. You're a 1, I'm a 1. We're all singles. The human race is a single. The earth is a single. And then you can drill down to, it's one of many, isn't it? And those are made up of ones of many. And, you know, cup, water, the emotions. Well, it's hearts, isn't it? If in a real deck, it's the hearts. Well, a cup describes the container for, it's an environment, isn't it? It's an environment. The emotions are your personal environment. Your thoughts are your inner environment. whatever you're thinking right now. So this is, I'm really trying to get through this quickly. Swords are splitting instruments. They cut things in two. Now suddenly you've had the thing it was before, and now it's got divided into two. This is just the way it works. And now you got, for the coins, you've got all these things added up together and put into something that can recycle. It's about cycling, because it starts again. That's another, yeah, it starts again. So money's like that. You put your bit in, I put my bit in, and then we can take that and we can transform it and start again with it. That's what coins do.
And is that why Earth is associated with cycling? Because, you know, you put
It's
things go in the,
recycles,
hey,
yeah.
we go in the Earth.
Yeah.
Once we're done here,
Absolutely,
and we get
that.
recycled.
Yeah.
You know, it's
It
like,
completely is that.
wow, that's amazing. And the sword, that's also associated with the intellect,
Oh,
isn't it?
forgive me, yeah. I did skip on. Yeah, the intellect. And the intellect is literally
What divides.
It divides things up to allow you to analyze things.
Cool.
Excellent.
Amazing.
So we're going to flick one on. Right. So ignore the things on the left. If anybody's expert enough to see what I've done there, you'll see that those are the divisions in the tarot. But we can ignore that. We're going to reiterate this first 4 mystical principles again. Number 1 is the index, because it's that thing which all the other numbers are made up of, but less expressed, less worldly, less experienced. So it's an index in a book. It tells you all the chapter headings, but not actually the information within that. It would be grammar in grammar, logic, and rhetoric.
Yeah. The trivium.
The trivium. So the logic in the grammar, logic, and rhetoric will be the second card here. And that is that there's a female second that needs to go next to that one, that monad. There's a dyad. And with this dyad comes together, you get the male and the female, and they create a third thing. We've said this many times on these podcasts that I've done with you guys. Create a third thing. That would be a pregnant lady. There's a pregnant lady.
Card 3.
Card number 3. She's the Empress, and she's a big lass, and she's pregnant. And she's got green gloves on because she's Mother Nature.
Oh, right, yeah. Interesting.
And then the Emperor is that 4th principle where everything's kind of start again, ready to recycle. And then he's the son, as it were, of these first 3. He's popped out. I know he looks like an old duffer, but he's the son of those first 3 cards. And then we go on again.
Is this the Visconti deck?
This is the Visconti deck.
The early deck.
I'm
right.
going to almost always show the very first deck, unless the cards are destroyed or lost in that deck.
Right.
And you'll see otherwise that they look quite dissimilar to these ones. Right? I think that's... So I've reiterated this Pythagorean number philosophy and the Platonic worldview just in the first 4 cards of 2 different...
Yeah. What's the name of
sets.
that triangle where you have 1 and then 2 dots and then 3? It's the tetractys.
The tetractys.
Yeah,
is a
so
great word.
if anyone interested in this weird shit, Iamblichus is
Yeah.
an interesting
Or
book to read.
indeed look at the previous podcast that we've done together,
Yeah.
because it goes over all this stuff in a lot more detail.
It's a really interesting sort of philosophy. Anyway, let's move on. To
Right.
The Fool!
So we said that it's star law. They put all the stuff in the stars, these ancient magicians. And the very first card here is the Fool, and that's from the Visconti and the Dodal deck. And the Fool's well known to be Orion. I don't think Mr. Newman would disagree with me on that. It's the constellation Orion. And we can see, if we look on the actual star map on the left, there's a red line and it says Sirius. Do we know another name for the star Sirius?
Dog Star?
Okay, and it's on the French deck.
There's a dog there!
There's a dog biting at his willy. Because on a lot of them, they'll have his belt coming off. There'll be kids pulling his belt off and stuff like that. And it's because, can you loose the belt of Orion? Now, what happens when you loose the belt of Orion?
Your pants fall down.
And
Your junk falls out.
right, and on a lot of them, you can actually see his thingy. And I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a mushroom because it's got a white stem and a red end on it.
Oh, mine
Shock
looks
horror.
like a mushroom generally. Especially if it's a cold day and a dog's just pulled my belt off.
Or some small children that are also pelting rocks at you. That's what's on there. So that'll do for
Any
that.
particular reason for highlighting Betelgeuse and Rigel there?
Oh, I've not done that. I've just
It's just on the
robbed
thing,
it off
right?
the
That's
internet. Yeah.
fine.
Oh, sorry. One last thing. He's called the Fool because in Hebrew esotericism, that constellation's called Kessel, which is the Fool
In Hebrew.
in Hebrew. Yeah.
The Kessel Run.
In 12 parsecs.
Ah, is it not Kessler? Is it Kessel?
It's Kessel Run.
Then he's taking it from that, isn't he?
And Solo.
Yeah, because there's a lot of esoterica in
Han.
Star Wars, but it's just
Oh,
like the
there is.
words. It's not really. It doesn't really have deep meaning to it. It's just nicked like Yoda's obviously Yod as in Yod He Vav He and all that stuff.
Yoda, yeah.
Yoda.
Yoda. Hey.
Okay, astronomical astrology. These are further proof that, you know, the actual basis of the cards are in the stars. As we were saying, the magicians put all the secrets in the stars to be remembered. They were the observers and astrologers. It was them. And the wordsmiths and the creators of language and the founders of civilization. So we've got the first card there is what's called the strength card, or the Force, meaning literally the Force from Star Wars. We were just talking about Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's where he's probably got that from. In fact, that's where he's got that from. It's the Leo card. Leo, we just discussing Leo in August. The summer of your life is like the summer of a year, is like the middle of the day. You're at your best. You're fiery. You're like, let's go. Let's do this. It's like a lion. Unfortunately, that lion of summer, of that roaring heat, in most countries, especially the countries where tarot began, will destroy everything. You've been like to Spain or Italy on holiday in summer, and everything's yellow and about to set on fire. So this guy is tempering his lion. If you can zoom in on that, not you guys, but at home, you'll see the face of the lion and the face of the chap are very, very similar looking.
Yeah, it's a pretty shitty drawing of a lion's head, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and of the guy's face is proper ugly.
Got some nice quads though, hasn't he?
He's ripped.
He's been squatting, hasn't he?
Squatting down to get that tiny lion.
Yeah.
So
Powerful
this is an allegory of beating down that sex force that makes you do things that you shouldn't do.
Right.
The Wheel of Fortune is literally an allegory for the entire ecliptic, the band of the zodiac that goes around you. That's what the Wheel of Fortune is. It's the heavens it's just spinning around you. Then this last card here is called the sun, and is about the sun, the esoteric meaning of the sun. So I don't. Again, we've got the actual structure of the tarot is what the magicians used to do their art.
Why is he holding a head above his head? Do we know?
Yes.
Or should we leave it for later?
We should leave it because we don't have time.
Okay. No worries. No worries.
Right. So I've chosen the Hermit here to go a bit deeper into esoterically to show you why you would end up with this specific character for Virgo. This guy's associated with Virgo. You can kind of see on the Leo card, at least there's a line on there. Right. Why would this card and other cards that don't seem particularly related be as they are? So each card is a formula. The formula of this card is Virgo and Saturn. Now, Virgo, all the star signs have little attached things. You'll hear, oh, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And you'll hear other big words like ones I can never remember. Like he's got his domicile there and other silly sounding words, old fashioned medieval sounding words for this planet is linked to this star sign. So, Virgo is one of the 12 signs of the zodiac. The 12 signs of the zodiac are, as we've just discussed in the cards, fire, water, air, and earth. And then you get a cardinal, fixed, and immutable of each one of those four elements. Cardinal means beginning. It means a hinge, like a door opening, so beginning. Fixed, it literally means to hold it in place. And then mutable means to change, like mutate. So these are three modalities of existence. You're either beginning something, you're doing it, or you're changing it. And not everything is always under those three conditions at all times. So Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is the the intellect. He's thinking, he's a communicator. He's bridging one thing and another thing. He's literally the bridge. He's associated with sex because sex is a bridging action between two people. I don't know, I'm pointing at you, Phil. I just think your beard's very handsome.
Thanks.
Right. Virgo is mutable. No, he's not. Virgo is fixed. Yeah, fixed air. Fixed earth, sorry. No, mutable earth. Rewind.
It's all right.
Right, so he is mutable earth. Virgo's a lady, normally holding a branch of wheat.
Yes.
She's the virgin. The virgin goes out. It's not so much that she's not had sex, is that she's going out doing her own thing. It means that she's not got a husband. That's what virgin meant. And so she's got to go out and do her own, picking people up and picking up the harvest. She's got jobs to do. So she's literally going fetching the stuff to bring it back. There's a term for going getting bundles of sticks, but I can't say it on the internet.
Okay.
We know what that term is, don't we? For going fetching firewood.
Yeah, begin with an F.
F.
Yeah.
Then AGGOT. So that's why at private schools, that same word was used for your underling, because he'd go and fetch your firewood for you.
That's
kind of an idea.
Yeah, an underling.
An underling, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's all it was. And it's referred to certain parts of society now because as an insult, it's like, that's all you're worth doing, a woman's job. That's where the insult comes from.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, it's this lady. She's going out. She knows what to pick. It's the end of the season. The summer's gone. It's late summer, early autumn, which is when Virgo is. And she's going out and picking that barley or whatever it is and the wheat that she got in her hand. And she takes it back and puts it in the right place. She stores it in the right place. Now, psychologically, Virgo is like a librarian. It's that faculty of mind. When we're having a conversation, there's a bit that connects my present condition. Maybe you're talking to me and you've just said something to me and I've listened. So we've made that connection. Mercury rules two different signs. He rules Virgo and he rules Gemini. I'm a Gemini. We've got this connective thing. We can, just like that, it's a quick wit. Just things connect quickly. Virgo is the fetching capacity of the intellect that goes into your internal library, flicks through those cards. There's the bloody book there. Grabs the book and brings it back and gives it to you. Wow. Mercury has this chthonic aspect where he's a dog that fetches things in the underworld. It's this fetching idea. What is that? Well, it's this instant analysis. The intellect's instantly able to analyze things. And that's the meaning of Virgo. Now, when you add Saturn into the mix, Saturn is very like that. It's very much about analysis and understanding. Saturn's an old fella. So he's been through it. He's done that school of hard knocks. He's seen life. He's been around the block a few times. He knows what's going on. He's called the Hermit, this card. Sometimes he's called Saturno.
Right.
But he's the Hermit. And what he's doing, he's going away. He's using his knowledge and he's examining time and life. We can see him holding a sand timer there.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah. And he's crippled. Saturn's often crippled. There's a slightly later card down the top right in black and white, and we can see he's got a pillar behind him. That's because, esoterically, Saturn lives at the top of the North Pole because he is time. And that's where time emanates from, because that is where the Earth spins around, where the cosmos spins around.
Saturn claws at the North Pole.
Saturn claws, and he looks very much like Father Christmas. We're not going to mention his mushroom hat and his mushroom leg because they're coming up later.
Okay.
And that and other things that are readable on that are the reasons why we have this character. So it makes sense. It's a formula. It's Virgo plus Mercury plus Saturn plus the number 9. The number 9 is in Pythagorean number philosophy and Kabbalistic number philosophy is the last number before perfect 10. It's nearly there.
For the resetting of the cycle.
Yes.
Once you get to 10, it starts
all over again. It's completion and ready to start again. So 9 is nearly there. It's a lensing effect. It's taking all those things and putting them into one place, and it's nearly popping out perfect in number 10. but we're not quite there yet.
So just to clarify, are we saying here that the Hermit card from the tarot is a composite of Virgo, Mercury, Saturn,
And the number 9.
and the number 9?
And the number 9.
Is it
Because
the- 'cause it's the ninth?
he's lending his life. He's about to give birth to wisdom.
And he's the 9th card?
He's the 9th card.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
Good. Okay. So we've said that, you remember in those first presets, we said that one of the, what have we gone through so far? We've gone through, it's cosmic, map of the psyche, made up of the stars, and we said that it aims to give you, through those previous things we're talking about, through this cosmic map, you can find your way through the cosmos, through your own psyche, and come out of it, come out of the mortal realm, past Saturn, which is the last one, the limiting guy, past death.
As well as just calendrical from a practical standpoint.
Sorry?
As well as just purely calendrical from a practical standpoint, when to plant, when to sow,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
when
yeah.
to harvest.
All that stuff. Yeah, it's a complete manual for being alive.
Right.
So the thing they were aiming to do in the cults was to die and come back. That's what Saturn's all about. That's why you see skull and crossbones, to do with all this Mithraic and Masonic stuff. You're aiming to die and be brought back. In the past, they did it in some extreme ways with doses of venoms and poisons and antidote. Note that all drugs are quite often seen as being poisons, and often are poisons, as is everything in too much of a dose. Do you know what I mean? Everything is in the dosage. So the whole point is to go outside of the realm of mortality temporarily. What do they mean by that? Well, can you sense
come
time?
back.
Yeah, well,
Make
you've got
sure
to
you
come
come
back.
back,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, many times you don't. This is the danger of it, isn't it? So basically, you rid yourself of those 7 gods and return back to a simpler form. Those 7 gods include things like your sense of time, your sense of self, etc., etc., until you've rid yourself of all these seals, which these gods represent. You've risen above those 7 chakra.
The 7 seals of Solomon.
The 7 seals of Revelation, which are also suppositories. Yeah, the 7 different drugs that you put up your bum.
Oh,
It's been getting weird. Anyway,
not all at once, surely, Ryan.
not all what?
All at once.
Yeah,
The 7
yeah, just do all
suppositories.
7. You can't say drop them. What could you say? Shove them.
Shove them.
Ram them home.
Okay.
Right. Oh, sorry. Could we just chip
Sorry,
back to that? That's all right. That's fine. So here are 3 images. One's an alchemical one where you can see a guy popping his head out of those fixed stars into where the wheels and wheels and wheels are, the wheels within wheels. You know, this is the Platonic realm. And there's a tree there behind him, which is this pole idea. Then again, we've got the pole coming down from the pole star in the second image through the dove. I could talk about this for hours. This is an alchemical image. This is sun crossing with the moon for this idea of an alchemical marriage. This is what happens in the death state. When you die, before you come back, you have this alchemical marriage, which is a mix of sun and moon. Sun is consciousness, moon is subconsciousness. You mix the two together and you stay in that dreamlike state, but you're able to remember it mostly. Next one on, we got one of the oracles, one of the Pythian.
The Pythia of
Yeah,
Delphi.
And there are many rumors about how they got high, but they definitely got high. Either it was steam coming up from vents, or they'd have been these ladies, and it is a female art. They had a high technology of medicine, healing, and drugs. And believe me, if you were caught doing something wrong and they wanted to get some information out of you, they could use it for that as well. So these were very, very powerful priestesses. And it's always goddess cults, by the way. Saturn has a female side. Saturn can be seen as androgynous, really. Yes, because these states, you're feminized. The masculine being active, the feminine being passive. And when you're in these states, you ain't active. You're on your bum.
Right.
You're dead. Not dead, but near as damn it for a lot of the time. Otherwise, using certain substances like opiates, mushrooms, and things like that to get you there. I love mushrooms personally, for fun. No, wait a minute, this is going even wronger. I enjoy the. There's a certain happiness around images of mushroom, isn't there? They're a bit frivolous and silly, so it's an easy thing to engage in without showing you, oh, look, there's an opium poppy, there's datura, so we're just going to concentrate on mushrooms, and I'm going to show you mushrooms hidden in that first tarot deck, starting from now.
Boom.
Next. No, not next to you. It'll actually be the next slide. I'm showing you mushrooms hidden in history. Bottom left, cave wall somewhere. That's a mushroom man covered in mushrooms, some shamanic image. Next to that, we've got a mushroom from alchemy with a red mushroom person in a tree. Then we've got an actual Amanita muscaria stroke fly agaric mushroom, the Christmas fairy tale mushroom. Then we've got an image from Alchemy of Alchemia, and you can see where her bush is the soil at the bottom of the mushroom, of the foot there, and then it goes up to the top of her head, which is a bird and the mushroom gills, and it's cunningly hidden that. And she's got two wells beneath her because one well is filled with the water that you drink that you put the mushroom in the first place, and the second well is your own urine that you drink to get high off the mushroom. Above that is a similar image.
Top tip, listeners.
Top tips.
I think we're always talking about the second here, aren't we, now with you?
You got a double tap.
Yeah.
Above that, we've got Adam and Eve from a Cathar-related temple. These were the Gnostics and did lots of these kind of things that we've been talking about, including having the body process certain substances, including seminal communions. And I don't mean like a seminary, even though that word has the same root. I mean, it's a biscuit party and similar. Then we've got Persian, Mithraic, Zoroastrian types who are giving the Homa, as it's called there, or Soma, as we might know it over here, to his king. He's a high priest. And then next up, we've got the Persian Mithras from Rome. The cult was called the Persian cult. And he's got his nice red speckled dress on there and his leg sticking out. The top of his leg looks like a Liberty Cap mushroom, but his dress and everything else is pretty commonly believed now that he is Amanita muscaria mushroom embodied. And actually, the story of Soma, Homa, in the surviving Vedic tradition in northern India is obviously the Soma god, the moon god, is the bull, is the drug. He's picking the drug when he does it. And this is academics speaking now. I forget the chap's name, but you can go and look that up. It's easy to find. It's probably even on Wikipedia by now.
Right. Okay.
Cool.
Should we move on?
All right. Here are some ways. Here's some other things. We've got. It's adding up to a shamanic science. This we've already had psychology. We've had astrology and astronomy. Mercury is the god of weights and measures. He's one of the main teacher gods for this. Those two opposing serpents are kind of hinting at a measurement. A measurement is comparing one thing to another. In this case, it's a dose to an antidote. And they're going up this pole, which is your spine, and you get your 7 chakra up, going up that spine. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 6 there. How disappointing. Yeah. So you'd have to refer to previous episodes for this. But those two serpents making love, that is what they're doing, is a best common denominator for this science. We've got, because it's measurements all the time. And science is comparing one thing to another, like venom, anti-venom, inch to meter. Do you get me? This even a measurement is I'm comparing the size of this to the size of that. It's always comparison. And if you can find any system that has these two things bond together, make love, that's where we are.
The whole point of reality is how we define reality is opposites.
Opposites.
It's like hot and cold. How do you know something's hot or cold? You need to have experience both to understand. It's like love and hate.
And so this is the understanding of gnosis. This is what you get when you've done that death rebirth thing. The main thing you get. You get lots of things, but the main thing you get is there's a point in death. It makes you live your life knowing that you're going to die. It's the ultimate gold to get you to do something.
Going back to like some previous shows, we've talked about psychology and people using these sorts of substances for PTSD and whatnot. That it can create a kind of a review, like a reevaluation of what it is to be alive. It's like there's something that gets reset, it seems, with these substances.
It does. It gives you
maybe not always long lasting.
brain at a default.
Different
mode
compounds will work differently, and again, the dose it'll be key, and the setting and everything else. But
the actual door to be used with that key is the mystical experience itself. You can have as many sessions as you want. If you don't have the mystical experience of death and rebirth, the psychology doesn't work. That's the thing that you're looking for.
Okay.
It can be done with many different substances.
Right. And that's me. That's me. By the way.
I enjoyed that back at home. Right.
And it may be able to be done exogenously as well through breath work, meditation, kundalini, all these sorts of things. You might not even need to take out.
No, definitely. I can testify to that myself. It's
Get high on your own supply.
Yeah, it's difficult to handle though because you've invoked it yourself. There's no guarantee that if it gets a bit too much handle, it's going to wear off quickly.
Right, good point.
Which is if you're scientifically calculating doses and things like that, it's an easy thing to work out.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Anything left here?
Yeah, we got a couple of things. So we've got Fuxi Anuwa from China. Probably came from Persia, this symbol, because it's a Silk Road thing. But we can see the two serpents as per usual. We can see lots of stars around them. We can see them holding a square and compass.
Oh.
And if you look in the skirt, unusually shaped skirt, you can see lots of mushrooms hidden in the pleats in the skirt, which is very common. We've seen quite a few times in previous podcasts. One off to the right, we've got those two serpents again in Mercury's wand. He's Caduceus. Those two serpents crawling up. We've got the mushrooms in the clothes again. If you look at his wafting clothes, there's clearly mushrooms hidden in there. And Mercury is the god of weights and measures. So, and he's he's like gay, hermaphroditic. I mean, the word hermaphrodite comes from Mercury. Hermes, is his Greek name. So then we've got the androgyne. We've already said about the sun and moon coming together. The sun's masculine, the moon's feminine. This is what all these symbols are, these two snakes coming together. And in alchemy, it's the sacred androgyne, which is male and female coming together with the wings. And, that shape is the shape of a mushroom. So, with that done, let's move on. What I'm saying is there is repeats. And here we go, repeated again in the tarot. The image on the right-hand side is called the Lovers and is the Mercury Gemini card. In the tarot, we've got a male and a female coming together around a pole. But that pole's very suspicious, isn't it? Looks a lot like a psilocybin similar to mushroom.
It does.
On the rim of that parasol, and I would like to say the word parasol because if you look at this little black and white cutout image just to the left of that parasol, can you see it? It's like it's like a mushroom-shaped thing. Well, that is the sacred parasol from Eastern traditions. And you can see that's, it begins with a lotus and ends with like an upside down lotus. But you'll see when you look at pictures of Buddha and stuff like that, when he's under the body tree or under the parasols, they are mushrooms. There's a mushroom called a parasol mushroom in this country.
Right.
But yeah, they're all mushroom shaped. Most of those 8 holy objects in Eastern traditions, in Buddhism and Jainism and stuff like that, they are not very well hidden drug allegories. The lotus itself from Buddhism is the Egyptians loved smoking and eating blue lotus. They'd soak the wine in blue lotus and get off their heads.
Right.
So it's a repeat. Eros who's the guy at the top, the Cupid-looking fella. Eros is the word for that character in Greece. He is that sexual force that we've been talking about. This is the big secret, one of the big secrets of all these mystery traditions and all the religions. He is the power of the drugs. The things that drugs do to you is invoke his power to put through you. There's two people, they always come together, Eros and Aphrodite. That's why they're called aphrodisiacs, because they bring on Aphrodite.
Erotic.
This is why you mostly get priapisms and things like that. Well, you think of Osiris. He's very proud of himself, isn't he? Most of the time when you see him. It's because we've already said at the beginning, these cults, it was sex and death. Those two things are very related. I'm not going to go into that now. Le petit mot, I'll say that. Sex and death are very related. And a lot of these drugs give you priapisms or start the juices flowing. And imagine if you are brought to conclusion while you're on these things. It's very much a part of this ritual. You got to think where orgies come from. Right. That top, just above that black and white mushroom, we got a serpent with a little boy coming out of its mouth. On the last slide, we had an alchemical picture of a mushroom, and there was a lady, like a red lady in a tree. It's the same symbol. It's a mushroom. It's that red mushroom. But it's also a symbol for the ancestry of these lineages. Almost all of them have a dragon as their ancestor. It's true for the Merovingians, who had Melusine as their ancestor. And it's true for these guys who claim Alexander as their ancestor, who was born of a dragon. And what you can see is the spiritual rebirth from the snake. You're either being eaten by or regurgitated by the snake. The snake is altered states of consciousness. When you have small doses of venom, it brings on an altered state of consciousness.
I think going to the dragon lineages, fuck me, this is a wormhole. But there's so much there. Uther Pendragon, the king of the dragons, man.
Yeah.
All your King Arthur lore is related to this.
And all this star stuff.
Draconis,
Khaleesi.
Dragons and snakes are synonymous. What did St. Patrick do? Came to Ireland, he got rid of all the snakes, the druids, the Brotherhood of the Serpent.
Yep.
He ridded the land for the Pope of the druids. This is fantastic. I love it.
It's great. No, it is
love
great.
This shit.
You are buzzing. Give me one of them. Boom.
I did that gay, didn't I? Is it like, how do you do it?
Give me a fist bump.
Just rub each other's wrists.
He said fist me. Go on. Where are we?
Right.
Sorry for that
I'm giving you a
interjection.
fisting. So, so we've discussed that family crest, and they said that the army of the Visconti would not camp unless that dragon was risen in a tree. We've already talked about the serpents and the poles, and obviously snakes in trees has a lot to do with Western mythology. Right, so now we see the star card. This is the lady holding the star in her hand. The idea of the magicians was you were drawing down the stars. You're drawing down the power of the stars, or you're having the stars come down to you. There are certain substances named after stars. An obvious one is called asterion, which is Greek for star. And you get, anyway. Asterion's a word for star. And can you think of a plant that has star-shaped leaves that you might enjoy?
Star anise.
Cannabis has star-shaped leaves, and that is asterion. So you get many, and this STR root word, like Saturn, is indicative of these Babylonian mystery traditions. That is where I'm pretty sure it's Babylon. It's around there somewhere that these STR words come from.
Right. Cool.
And you'll see them in many.
That's another homework. I'm gonna think of STR words.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. Well, if you just think of ST words, you get Saturnian words. So you get stick, stuck, stop, stay. Do you get me? Stabilize. These are all Saturnian limiting,
Steady.
Steady. Do you know what I mean?
Staccato.
Sticky.
Yeah, sticky. So you get, it's not exclusively true, but most ST and STR words are Saturn, especially if it's an older word.
Stud.
Yeah, they're all fixed words, and Saturn is the god of limitation.
Yeah.
Very interesting, isn't it? Right, let's get on with the freaking mushrooms. No, sorry, whoa, stay, stop, stand still.
Saturn.
So we've got this star card lady. Now she's in a strange pose with her hand on her belly, isn't she? I don't see people standing like that. Well, there's a big mushroom top and a stem coming down the center of a dress, and you can say, yeah, probably, maybe. And then I go, well, I'll have a look on a dress then. So when there's the little zoom in blue panels next to on the right of her,
Yes.
I just zoom in to what's on a dress, and at a distance it looks like light coming from the clouds or something. But the second you zoom in, they're like these stripy mushroom shapes with one big stem in the middle, and well, you can see it there for yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, that's not proof it's mushrooms, Ryan, but it is pretty convincing until I go on to the next card, which is the moon card, which I've not shown you the full card, but I've taken 2 images from the wide one at the very bottom of the star card and the one just underneath the ones we were talking about. And those same images are growing from the ground underneath the feet. The same shapes with the same striations going up. And they're definitely not trees because they're under her legs and not off in the background. And there are also trees drawn on that same image which look nothing like that. They're clearly growing around the feet.
Right, which is what mushrooms do.
Which was what mushrooms do, and mushrooms are that shape.
Right.
And I can't think of any other icon in the holy visual lexicon that looks like that shape. 3 striated marks and a stalk coming out the bottom. It doesn't make any sense. I put on the top left image just because he looks wrecked.
Is he from the tarot?
Yeah, he's the magician. Oh,
right.
The scribe.
And he's a bit spaced out.
He's had a
He's a
rough
lot
night,
spaced
hasn't
out.
he?
Yeah, exactly.
He's just drunk his own piss.
Yeah. He's done the double tap. He's drunk from the second tap.
He has. He definitely has.
So under that is the priestess or the papess as it was back in those days. And I looked at the left image, the light brown image first, and I saw a leg. I'm like, that looks like a mushroom to me, especially seen as Liberty Cap mushroom is Liber, as in a book, and she's holding a book above it. They do things back in these days. Is like they take a psychedelic. Most psychedelics are also dyes and inks, like the famous Murex purple snail shell that they got Tyrian purple from. The purple dye is a drug. You stick that up your bum and it gets you off your head.
Why does everything have to go up your bum these days?
Because it was back in them. No, we'd inject it. But they couldn't do that, so they either make a slit in your skin and wrap a bandage around it, or put it on a whatever.
A snail shell?
Yeah, they crush up snail shells and take out the little bladder there, and it's got this purple. It's like, I think it's like benzene or something like that. Benzodrine. I can't remember.
I know there's like a beetle shell that makes red, isn't there?
Oh yeah,
Colchinel?
I don't know.
Colchinel? It's in all your food dyes.
Yeah.
E141 food dye.
I think that's a drug as well. And colchis is where Medea comes from, who's the root of medicine and drugs, and the first person to be the magician. The whole country that started the magicians changed the names from the Aryans to the Medes because of Medea. She's the drug lady that started all this stuff off in the first place.
Wow, I need to brush up on my Median Empire research, man, because I didn't think much was known about the Medes before, like pre-Cyrus the Great, but I want to dip in now.
Top guy, Cyrus. Anyway, he was. I wasn't saying that sarcastically. He seems like I've not read that much into him, but he did some cool things.
Hey, he sent the Jews home.
Yeah, he did. That's one great thing, yeah. So I wasn't quite convinced it was a mushroom, and I was a bit less not quite convinced when I looked at, there's a repaint now on the right, and it's difficult to see in this room, but those folk at home, I'm sure they could see, it's very suspiciously painted like a mushroom.
Yeah.
Right, next image, please. Oh, look, the hermit wearing 2 mushrooms on his head. Not much more needs to be said than that. The hermits are fed in the hermit law by raven's bread. Raven's bread is another name for the Amanita muscaria mushroom. On the top right, as we showed in a podcast Phil's obviously having a flashback to, that the serpent in the cup is obviously medicine, serpent venom, poison, antidote, all that shit. And we got a raven now, which is a bird of the dead that will take you to the underworld and bring you back. This is what hermits do. Hermits have like three main symbols: a skull because they're examining death, a time because they're examining death, and bread because they're examining death. All these things are death rebirth ceremony.
Where's that top right
implements.
image from? If it's like a Christian image.
Yes, I can't remember.
Is
but
it alchemical?
No, it's Christian.
Fuck me. Why? It's like, why would you put a raven there holding a piece of bread?
With a tiny snake.
With a tiny snake in a cup.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I'll also point to the hermit's cocky leg there with that same mushroom shape on there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be done. When, the dose, apparently, although the chemicals in Amanita are very wild, they vary a lot. 2 caps is mythologically the standard dose.
Ooh.
But that's a lot. Bloody hell, don't do that. Anyway, next one. Right. We said, so we've put an end to the whole substances part. Now we're saying that the poles are an exemplar for the mystics to make their journey. They're trying to get to a place of immortality. The immortal realm, by its nature, is beyond time. If time comes from the pole, then if you can go to that center part of the pole or beyond that, time doesn't go there. The point at the middle of the wheel doesn't turn, does it? It's an axis around which everything else turns.
Yeah.
That's their idea. Now, these 4 symbols here are explanatory of that idea. We've got a Cairo symbol, that PX, with an alpha and omega, which picks time, the beginning and the end.
Beginning and the end, yeah.
The pole in the middle. Then we've got these 2 axes, which we're going to discuss briefly now. The same with the serpent caduceus that we can see just hidden behind it. And I've put one over the other to show that it's the same bloody symbol. We've got the wings at the top, the nub of the pole. Think of a Christmas tree too. That's tinsel is your snake going up the tree. You got your star on the top, and the baubles up there are the stars.
Yeah.
The Masons have it in Boaz and Yakin, the 2 poles. And the Pope also has it in his keys that are very old pagan symbols that were held by Janus. Janus is a Saturnian character called Alpha and he was the first to be called Alpha and Omega. And he held those keys along with Kibel. And these are all Saturnian figures. Janus is January, the beginning of the year, the end of the last year and the beginning of the new year.
One face looking forward, one back.
Absolutely. So why 2 poles? Why the X? Why the 2 serpents around that pole? Why 2 keys? We'll quickly do the 2 keys. The 2 keys are autumn, where Virgo is, and spring, where... Oh, sorry, I take it back about Virgo. It's where Scorpio is, and in spring, where Taurus is. The keys to autumn and winter, the end of the year and the new year, the growing year, the year of life. All these Saturnian rituals are winter rituals. They're about the death. If it was a life ritual, it would be in the summer, but it's not. It's about the death, so it's in winter. You're having the key to winter, to die, to come back. So it's this mystical stuff. The 2 pillars are also represented in the 2 keys. And what are the 2 pillars? Well, you can see at the capital of the B pillar, there's the zodiac. You can see the plough there.
Yeah.
And then you can see that in that band in the center, there's the symbols of the zodiac. On the right pillar, we've got the earth. So look over the next image, please. All right. So the earth is off at an angle compared to the rest of the solar system by 23.5 degrees. From 22 to 25 degrees, but 23.5 degrees. The rest of the solar system's on a plane and we're skewed off. It's as simple as that. These are what the poles are. One pole is for the pole that goes through the earth. And, if you looked up to the North Pole and took a photo over a long time, you'll see all the stars make a circle because all the planets are spinning around it. This is how the ancients saw it. They didn't know the earth was off to one side and the whole solar system was as it should be. They thought it was the way around. Of course you would. You're in the center of things, so you think you're in the center of things. Yep. So the earth is still, the earth pole is still, and everything spins around it, and the spinning pole itself is the pole of the zodiac. It is off to one side. And these are the two poles. Because of these two poles, the pole that's off by 22.5 degrees, it has like a spinning top effect to it and draws a circle in the sky over the top of the North Pole. And to do a full cycle of that extra spin, it takes 25,920 years. If we look at the image in the top left, there's a circle with a picture of Janus and Kybele in this Janus-like image. And they've got a key in one hand and a pole looking fleur-de-lis in the other. Above it, it says IHS, and I did this the other night just preparing this. IHS in Gematria. Gematria is a system where you substitute numbers for letters. If Phil would read that out, if you can see it, please.
IHS equals 107. I equals 9. H equals 8. S equals 90.
So 9 times 8 times 90 equals 64,080. That
So
times
6,480.
Oh, sorry, my fault. I am short-sighted. That's why I'm getting you to read it for me. 6480 times 4, the 4 seasons, is 25,920. IHS is in hoc signes or Jesus.
Yep.
Another thing that's above people's heads in the Christian myths is that INRI. Jesu Nazarene Rex Judea. And that's equal to 138. I equals 9. N equals 40.
Yep. R equals 80.
And I equals 9. 9 times 40 times 80 times 9 equals 25,9,200. There's an extra 0 on the end. But it's always this processional stuff, and it's deep in all of the religions. That's why I gave Phil early on the title of the hidden religion. There's a hidden ancient religion at the bottom of all these religions. They call it the Prisca Theologia, and it's as above, so below.
Counted.
Why? I'm just because there's various different methods of using gematria. There's simple gematria, English gematria, whatever. So I is 9, H is 8. That makes sense.
This is Hebrew.
S is 90, so it's Hebraic.
Yes, it's a Hebrew gematria.
Gematria.
Yeah, because it's Christian, so it just makes sense. They fetishized Hebrew until I realized. I found out recently from an excellent guy whose name slips my mind, who demonstrated to me that, and I've said it, but I had suspicions of it, that the Septuagint is the original. Basically, the Bible was written in Greek and not Hebrew. When you look at Hebrew, there just aren't enough words at the time to describe things adequately. And then you look at the Greek translations, and it's like, oh, that word actually meant something complex. And you can see that it's a downwards translation into the Hebrew. So the Greek came from, well, you gotta think, Hebrew wasn't being spoken by anybody. It was pretty much a dead language.
Right.
It was
So they were
only
speaking-
spoke in the seminaries.
Right, because they would have been speaking Aramaic and
But they've been speaking
and Greek. So, all right, I'll just that was a quick glossing over. You think you're
not going
if I'm correct, if I understand, you're saying the Septuagint was earlier than the Hebraic Bible.
Yeah. There's like 10,000 words or something in Hebrew at the time, and like 100,000 words in Greek.
That's just a fair few connotations to that, doesn't it?
Yes. And nobody bothered talking about it.
No,
anymore.
we'll
I'm
save
not
that
gonna-
for another day.
Yeah, there are other people more qualified to talk about that than me.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Yes,
I'm
I
interested.
can certainly put you the way of some very
I want to know
people.
I want to know where
Greek
this information
philologists basically is my source on these things.
Cool.
Okay, I think I've wrapped that up quite nicely.
Can we carry on?
Yeah, please. Right, this is a crack at this. It's one of my favourite things that I've done this year. So this is a famous alchemical image called the rebis. We'll note that it's got the 7 planets on there, the holding, the square and compass, and they got a serpent underneath them, just like that Chinese image that we looked at before with Fuxi and Niwa. It is the shape of a cosmic egg around the outside. And if you squint and look at it, you can see a skull there. You can see the 2 eye sockets of the skull in the negative space next to the... Can you see it? And like the sides of a grin?
Yeah, I
getting me?
get the
Yeah.
I get the picture. Yeah,
That's because alchemy's in your own head. then we've got the sacred ant giant doing the mushroom pose, and that'll do for now. This is often reproduced by people.
There's a lot going on in
There's
that
so much.
image.
Honestly, I can decode this one just so quickly for you, but it's just going over the same stuff. You got a serpent, a dragon. It's Draco. There's your 7 planets around the outside. They're doing the alchemical marriage. One's male and one female, because normally the male would have the square, the female would have the compass, because the compass draws curves, feminine, and the masculine draws straight lines.
Got you.
Underneath it, we've got 4 and 3, which we've discussed previously, and is exemplified by the tarot in that you've got 4 elements and 3 modes: fire, water, and earth, cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And the 7 planets. You know, this is the system. It's all here.
Wow.
And the secret fire that the dragon's breathing out. But there's something else there. There's actually a 1 and a 2 in that. If you look closely, I've blown up a section, and there's a hidden 1 at the top, and I've drawn a little red 2 next to a little hidden black 2 at the bottom of that. Can you see it? Just about?
Yeah, I can see what you're highlighting.
Yeah.
It's just it's hard to see.
There's 1 at the opposite side as well.
Right.
Well, I noticed just below that 1, there's a little gap, as if they're saying, draw a line here, Ryan. And so I did. And then when I drew a line there, and I'm like, well, obviously it wants to be a triangle, this, because there's a 2 at the bottom. So I drew lines to the 1 and the 2, and then I took the triangle and I measured it. We can see where I've measured it in blocks up at the on that top right. Can you see that there?
Yeah.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 across, and 9 up as far as one of those right-angled triangles from within that larger triangle goes. So I flipped it over and measured it all up. Oh, what's that angle? 23.5 degrees? Yes, it is. It's that same pole axis angle. And this, I'm going to aim a comment at Justin Sledge of the Esoterica channel, who said, and was quite rude to me about it as well. This is a cool channel with loads of good information. A bit dry, mate. Let's be honest. You're a bit dry. You were rude to me.
Don't start a beef.
I am starting it. And you were rude to me, and under your own authority said that there's no esoterica in tarot. Well, I say, take this 3, 4, 5 triangle and this 4x9 triangle, turn them obtusely to each other, and thank you.
There's no esoterica in the tarot.
In alchemy.
Oh wow, it's a statement.
It's another thing that has to be taken rectally.
Yes.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Sideways.
The chat's gone really quiet. Is everyone still alive? It's like people. There's no
Tired of me burping at them.
no chat's coming in. But I took that as 43. I didn't twig it was 4 and 3.
Yeah. Well, it's a 4-sided thing and a 3-sided thing.
Right.
And by the way, the units that make up me being able to measure those triangles are taken from the circle in the center. See that little circle in the center of the big circle?
Got you.
And I've put underneath in the bottom left-hand corner, I've put that circle equals 1 unit. And
Yes, that's your key
that's my key.
to work it out. Cool.
Right. So I'm showing that in all these traditions, they're always using this angle to demonstrate the pole, the second pole, not the pole of the Earth that everything spins around, but the second pole, which is the reason for the skew width of the zodiac, and the reason why the stars and the planets kind of go up and around in an arc and not just on a flat plane at the equator.
Yeah.
Next image, please. Sorry, like I said, I'm using brevity here. Right, this was so cool. I also, while I was putting this together, we've previously discussed on previous episodes a lion, a bull, an eagle, and a man, where we take the star signs of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, add them together, and we get all this Sphinx stuff. Those are the animals that make up the Sphinx. So it's about time. We've discussed this before. It's about time. There are 4 central points on the zodiac.
Yeah. Create the composite creature.
Yes.
Which has been depicted across history in various different tweaked forms.
Right. And we can see in all these images with the green line on it that the ancients knew about this pole axis. They were obsessed with it. They stuck it everywhere. They stuck it in a particularly clever form. Oh, I'll just go over where these are from quickly. That's from Babylon, Sumeria. That's Shamash. Underneath that, we've got two similar Oannes type entities with the foreleg out. There's Osiris leaning forwards. There's Ion from Mithras stuff. Then we've got Babylon, Sumeria, Sphinx. We've got Saturn below it and all this stuff. And you can see that weird trapezium shape in that these Sphinx characters where they got the legs splayed out. Well, I discovered exactly how they derived that when I was putting this presentation together. The top right image is from the Vatican. It's the piazza at the front.
Oh, wow.
And it's clear when you look at it, knowing esoterica, it's clearly a calendar, and it's clearly what is a vesica piscis, which is two circles put together, and it's the foundation of all this esoteric geometry. Right. Now, I realized when I took the vesica piscis from that piazza at the Vatican, it was actually not just the two circles together. It had a third circle kind of joining the two together in like an ovule shape, making the overall shape between the two circles. And when I drew a line through the center of that, the circle on the right, the angle between the top of that central oval and the circle on the left was 23.5 degrees. And in the right of that, we can see a 3, 4, 5 triangle. So I've got this 23.5 degrees 4x9 triangle, and I've got a Pythagorean 3, 4, 5 triangle, loved by the Masons, in the same image. And I've gone, ping, that's where we get this Yod-He, Vav-He, Jehovah trapezium from. It's called the Yod-He, Vav-He, Jehovah trapezium because, like with the Gematria, Yod-He, Vav-He, Yod equals 10, then 5, then 6, then 5. We put those things together and we get the measurements for this trapezium, which are made of those two exact same things. This 23.5 degrees angle triangle and a Pythagorean 3, 4, 5 triangle. Add two together, you get this special trapezium that they encoded into Babylonian stuff. It's nuts in it. But unfortunately, we can't dwell on how nuts it is because we need to crack on. Precession. We've talked about this wobble. It's called precession. The effect of this second pole spinning very slowly over 25,920 years makes the star sign that comes up over the horizon at spring change. Normally the zodiac signs would go like Aries, Taurus, Gemini. But because of this, every 25,920 years, it goes back one. So it would be Gemini, Taurus.
Well, every 2,000...
whatever I said then.
160 years, it goes back a sign.
Yeah, back a sign, yeah, 2160.
Hence, age of Aquarius, age of Pisces.
Exactly that. Phil loves this stuff. So big deal. So we got 25,920 and a month is 2160. Well, a day is 72. And you'll know 72 from biblical stuff, 72 names of God and stuff like that. It comes up all over the place. And then when you look at these numbers, you're like, I've seen all these numbers in text before. You get like 108, 2160, 432. And you're like, these are all musical correspondences. And it turns out, if you work out like the day, what's a day, what's a week, what's a month, what's half a year, what's a season.
Or minutes in a
seconds
day.
even, yeah.
So
they're
base
all
60 is 6 is the key.
Yeah. They're all these sacred numbers. Simple. Next image, please. Again, if you want to understand this stuff a little better, go to previous podcasts. So from these numbers that you can see in the left columns there, we've got one, I remember Phil loved last time. These are all these sacred numbers, 24 hours a day, 60 a minute, 1440 a day, 1440 minutes a day, 60 seconds a minute, 3,600 seconds an hour, 86400 seconds a day.
You know what I really love about them all? If you take the individual digits, they always add up to multiples of 9.
Yep, every single time. And I can explain why but you better have listened to previous
The magic
podcasts.
numbers, by
Yeah.
the way, not seconds in a day. So 432, 4, 3, and 2 is 9.
Yeah.
1080 is another magic number. 1 and 8 is 9.
Yeah.
The big one, 25,920.
Yeah.
You'll add all those digits up, it'll be a multiple of 9.
Come to 9. So what's so special about that? Well, we've already said that Plato, Greek philosopher, and Pythagoras, his teacher, and a full lineage that goes through Persia and comes through. It's very complex, but this is the information of the ancients. And so we've talked about going up the pole and doing the mystic thing, going beyond time and coming back. Now, what happens if you actually pay attention to time? Well, we get these numbers. So what? Big deal. Well, Plato came up with these Platonic forms, which are the simplest three-dimensional shapes that will fit into a circle, a sphere, and the corners will touch the sides. There's only 5 of them. There they are, the 5 Platonic solids, and you'll see under each of them, A, there's a signing element. That's suspicious, isn't it? And B, the internal angles are all these magic numbers that we're talking about. And as Phil said, it goes into how many blinks today, how many blinks a day you have, how many breaths a day. It's
Heartbeats.
Everything. You wouldn't believe.
Obviously, averages.
Yeah.
We're talking, again, it's Platonic. We're talking about Platonic
Yeah,
forms, the
ideals.
ideals of what is possible.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're all individuals. We have range. There's a range.
Mm-hmm.
But Plato was talking about the thought forms.
Yes.
Where archetypes come from, the design, if you like.
Yeah. These numbers aren't taken from Plato, by the way. These numbers are taken at the bottom, the breaths and A and all that stuff. That's taken from modern science. I've not nicked it from mystics. Right. I know we're skipping through this quickly, guys, but this is the nature of this cast tonight.
Forward.
Next one, please. Yes, thank you. So, what happens when you mix these numbers and these triangles? First of all, I'd like to point out that the Egyptian headdress of Ra is 4x9, the same 4x9 as this angled triangle
yeah.
is.
Okay.
So, what happens? So, let's dismiss the 4x9 for now and just go for the 3, 4, 5 triangle. If we look to the left, we can see an Egyptian version of that triangle where Isis in blue and Osiris in red show us 2 of those sides. And remember from school, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. The A squared and the B squared are the red and the blue. The squared just means that if you were to extend that line on the triangle into a square, how many would there be, etc. So we get 2 sets of numbers from these harmonic pole numbers. And when you add them into the triangle, amazing things happen. They start repeating themselves. If you look at any line of those numbers there, we can see the A line from the red square, the B line from the blue square, the C line is the hypotenuse, which is the white square. If you look down those lines, you'll notice, I don't want to go into it too much, but like if we go the line that begins 27, 108, 144, these are all super harmonic numbers. 180, like 108. All these numbers line up to 9, like Phil says. And then we got 432 in the center. That's the most famous one of these numbers because we often talk about tuning to 432 hertz for a middle C, which is actually Pythagorean tuning. That's what it's called. Now, if we look on the bottom left, one of the special things about the 3, 4, 5 triangle is that in ratio to each other, these sides, the smallest side is worth 1. The second side, the side on the left there, is the square root of phi. Phi ratio is the golden ratio, if you've heard of that. And then the other one is phi itself.
The hypotenuse is
Yeah.
the golden mean.
So already we've got these special cosmic harmonic things in there. The next one is we see 2 triangles. One's the same shape as the pyramid, and that's the 3, 4, 5 triangle that I've cut out in red. And then the other 4x9 triangle, which is like the axis of the Earth, is also in there. So I'm going, well, these 2 shapes are in a 7-sided shape that, like, a pentagram is a pentagon with all the lines imploded.
Yeah.
and joined together. Well, this is just a 7-sided shape with all the lines imploded.
I think you might be able to divine a Enneagram, a Gurdjieff
Enneagram
Enneagram out
kind
of
of a
there
thing,
as
yeah.
well.
Well, it would have to be 7-sided, but yes.
Yeah, well, that would be 9, would it? An Enneagram,
yeah.
Ennead, 9, yes. Happy?
Yep. Okay, now we're talking about having this stuff in the tarot because that was the whole point. Is this stuff in the tarot? Well, the magician's wand there, from the very first card in the earliest deck, his wand is at 23.5 degrees. The card itself is made up of 4 3, 4, 5 triangles. Job done. I mean, literally, there you go. There's the mysteries right there.
Hang on. Right, so how are you deriving? I can't see. So I'm getting the end of his wand. You've taken a line across from the end of the wand?
Well,
Have you?
so
The top of the wand?
If you see, oh, you mean why I've drawn those triangles?
Yeah, in the
there?
middle image, yeah.
It's frankly well known that the tarot is made up of 4 3, 4, 5 triangles. So I've not bothered measuring anything. I just stuck it in.
Oh, because, compared to your standard playing deck, they're longer, aren't they?
Yes.
They're a specific shape.
Yeah.
So
That.
your actual physical, because we've been talking about all the images and the symbol, but the actual physical size of the tarot card is
itself.
derived by 3, 4, 5 triangles.
Yeah.
Oh, fuckers out there.
Yeah. And for me, trying to prove this point, that does most of it, plus that 23.5 degrees in his wand there.
Right, I'm trying to think, is there a practical reason for them making them to derive them from triangles like that? Why wouldn't you make them just square? Why wouldn't you make them square? Is there a palm size? Is it, maybe there's something in this.
You've got a deck here.
Yeah. You got a deck here.
Right. Feel how awkward they are to handle.
Well, that's the point. I was going to say maybe there was an ergonomic reason.
No. Look, we're big, 21st century guys.
They would have been smaller.
It would have been smaller than me.
Yeah. Yes, they're weird, aren't they?
Yes. Well, they're that size because of that reason.
Right. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Sorry. For my own amusement.
And I think that's a swift enough point to move on. Okay, now what happens when you add the triangles to the triangles and the numbers to the triangles and everything works itself out? Well, you get the size of the Earth and the size of the moon. We said 2160 is a number before. Well, that's the size of the moon in miles. We said 7920 before as well. Well, that's the size of the Earth in miles. If you added the first 4 of those platonic solids for fire, water, air, and earth together,
is that the internal angles of those solids?
Right. You get 7920, which is the size of the Earth.
In miles.
In miles.
And again, we're talking about a platonic ideal, not if you go out and take a tape measure. The Earth will vary, in size, and geologics and all the rest. It will probably expand and contract little bits and whatnot, and isostatic depression and everything else. But
ask any scientist.
In an ideal world,
he would go, yes. Not even a fur-handed scientist. If you said, "Oh, the Earth's 7920 miles," right? He'd go, yeah, yes, it is. Okay, this was originally drawn by a chap called I forget his first, John Michel, an English fella from somewhere near Glastonbury, as I remember. Actually.
Famously read. There's a great book. New View of Atlantis. He wrote, didn't he? Yeah.
I have stayed away from his work.
Not the piano player.
John Michel Jarre.
You've stayed away from his work.
I stay away from, if I find a person that's onto the same stuff as me, I stay away from the work, and I'm going to keep on doing that until I finish the book.
Right, fair enough.
Because then I've figured it out for myself, not gotten anything from anywhere else, or this is for me. This really, so I'll read them at the end. And another one I've never read that I should have done was Carl Ruck, who he brought a book called "The Mushrooms That Civilized Europe."
Right.
The Mithras cult he's talking about. I've not read that either. And I need to, really. I can't wait. But anyway, you get all this stuff, including the size of the Earth, the size of the Moon, the speed of Jupiter's orbit, how many cycles they go through in a day. It's nuts. The size of the sun. I can do pages, and I could do 4-hour podcasts just on those sizes.
We've
easily.
done it. We've already done it. I'm sure we've
That was
already
12
done
hours or something.
Yeah.
Right, so next one. Right, so we've got this 7-sided shape. That 7-sided shape, if you put it over the pyramid, don't ask me why I did that, but I did. So if you put it over the pyramid, you'll find that it fits, especially if you take that 7-sided shape, because it's an odd number, the shape that you get from it is odd. You can see there's a point at the top of it and not at the bottom. So to even that out, we'd take that 7-sided shape, we'd turn it 180 degrees, and we get a 14-sided shape. Simple. We put one over the other, and then suddenly all the passages, all the paths, bar 2, in that Great Pyramid are accounted for. All of them. All of them. Every line, every feature, every angle, all accounted for. That's wonderful. Amazing, in fact. But we're going to go to the next image. Right. So not only is it on the pyramid, and you can have a good look at that at home if you want to, but you'll see if you just follow the outline of all the shapes in the pyramid, you'll see there's a little green line that follows along with it. Like that main shaft there that goes up, the main shaft that goes down, where they are all situated, what line they're on, even the ground level. The sides of the pyramid, you'll see follow the sides of the shape. It's there. One other interesting thing about this shape is that there's an ancient riddle called the squaring of the circle, where you're supposed to draw a square and a circle of the same circumference, the same perimeter. You can't actually do it because pi, the nature of the circle's transcendent.
It's an irrational number.
Yeah, it's an irrational number. But you can get near as damn it with whole numbers. You do that by drawing a square of 11 and 11, and then it goes 7 up. And you'll know that the Great Pyramid is a ratio of 7 to 11. 11 across and 7 up.
Which is pi. Which is 7 over 11.
7 over 11. So, well, the tarot also contains pi because you get 22 over 7. But anyway, so you'll see there Stonehenge on the right. Now, if you follow the circle on the outside, the circle of stones follows a circle. There's an inner circle, and everything follows. The angle of the lines inside, the angle of the stones. It's the same effing pattern. It's amazing. It's mind-blowing. I don't know why nobody knows it. I don't get it. I've been on about this for about 3 years now, but nobody gets it. But it's there. Study that to your heart's content. We're not talking about the pyramids or trying to prove anything about the pyramids today. We're trying to prove it about the tarot. Now, if I would show you that this pattern's in the tarot, it'd be pretty amazing. Let's go on to the next one. There's the pattern. 2 features in that pattern that are pretty cool is that one triangle there, which is if you actually look at the pattern, that green bit in the middle, you'll see there's like a yellow triangle that stands out more. That's the triangle on the left, which is the same shape as the Great Pyramid.
Right.
There's another pattern there's another triangle in there that's not quite so easily visible, and that's the one on the right. And people affiliated with alchemy might realize that's the geometrical philosopher's stone. That's fun. Next image, please. There's the rebis over this pattern. If we look at the actual word rebis in the center of the rebis, we'll see that there's 7 lines that come off and touch the planets, the deep black lines all traced by green lines. The sides of his skirt there are traced by green lines. Everything on there is drawn according to this 7-shaped pattern. 7 planets, the 7-sided pattern. Although it's 14-sided. We've said why, just because we need to balance that unequal shape out. You can see the bottom of the rebis sign is lined up. Believe me, everything's lined up in there. You can have a good look at it later. Next image, please. We're getting there now. The Masons know this stuff as well. There's something called the Masonic keystone. And if you just look straight away on the right with the pattern, those little dotted white lines follow exactly with my purple lines. They knew about this. Some people still know about this. They just don't talk about it. I've never, although not many people know about it, because every Mason I've met that I've spoken to about it, nobody has a clue. But that is a symbol for that pattern. Also within that Masonic keystone symbol, if you break it all down, it basically turns back into that Yod He Vav He trapezium.
Trapezium, yeah.
And if you want to know where I got the cut from on the turquoise triangle, all I did was take off that unequilateral triangle and then turn it into a right angle triangle. And the place where that line on the left went vertical, I just cut it off there, to make it into a right angle triangle. Done. There you go.
Is this where are we going to go back to the pins and the string?
Yes. Yes, we are. You see it coming. Next, please.
Next.
Here is a Masonic tracing board, and they've used it in a slightly different way. They've taken the pattern on the left. It's not easy to see. And on the right, everywhere where those lines cross, they've drawn a line and used that for the structure of everything. So it's a bit more nuanced, a bit more hidden. I quite like it. But if you take your time and study the image on the left, you'll see that it all beautifully lines up despite having the lines hidden.
Something I've never noticed before was on the two pillars, and it's on this image and the previous Masonic pillars image, Jachin and Boaz. One has an arrow pointing up and one an arrow pointing down.
Ah.
It's always the old
I think that is
alchemical axiom, isn't it?
As above, so below. And the masculine and feminine.
Fuck me. So
we're gonna keep jumping. Right, so this is, it looks like the ancient handbag, doesn't it? Yeah. So that's 2500 BC. Very old. That's from Jiroft in near Iran. And that's that same shape. And in fact, if you look in the top right, I've taken that handbag, it's a weight. It's for weights and measures. It's a weight for cereal or something. And I've placed one over the other and they line up perfectly. And then when I placed the pattern over it and drew the lines down, every single line on that handbag looking weight is from the pattern. But there are 4,500 years between the drawing of the Masonic tracing board and that Jiroft handbag. That's mad.
Yeah.
Next image, please. If you want to dwell on this, please, peeps, please.
Yeah, pause it.
What's this? It's Göbekli Tepe, the oldest site in the world.
With his handbags.
With his handbag shapes. So when I put it over the top, it's just the horizontal lines on this one alone. You could ignore all the vertical and diagonal lines. Just the horizontal lines all match up, give all the measures.
That's the famous vulture pillar there.
Yes, it is. And if you look on the pillar on the right, not only is because these images, it's fractal. I'm not going to go into it now, but that pattern is fractal. And so if you zoomed out, if you zoomed in, it'll all line up with itself. So it might make the handbag, but if you look at the pillar itself, you'll see that every time you get a horizontal line breaking up the structure of the pillar, you get a horizontal line on the pattern breaking up the structure of the pillar.
It says pillar 42 as well. The
It's meaning of life, yeah.
I need to check that.
Use
Pillar 42. Is it pillar 42?
It is, yeah.
I thought it was pillar 43 in enclosure D. That rhyme just stuck with me. But oh no, I'm definitely wrong.
Well, I've not remembered it, so I've copied it down from something.
Right, on to the next.
Yeah.
It's the old magician again.
So there's a magician. You can see that. I mean, look at his wand.
Yeah, why pick that angle?
Yeah.
Is that the 23.5 degree angle, by the way?
Near enough. Actually, we'll see in a moment. He also lines up with some stars. That's when we're going to bring it back to Mithras, but we're getting so close to the end now.
Okay.
So we can see that he's been drawn with that. Would you agree? You can see the two lines down his front there, cut him off. His head, the arm, everything is there. As an artist, that would be more than sufficient to draw that image.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, your tracing boards, I'm getting you.
Yeah, so next image. So back to the pins in the thing. So now we know why those pins are in the place they are. We can draw our lines down and etch out this card. So if you go on to the next one, look how close they are. And I mean, you could say, oh, you can place a line anywhere right now. Well, you can't. Those are very specific angles with wide gaps between them. You couldn't get this close if it was just any old. You couldn't do it. Basically, you couldn't do it. And if you think you can do it, go and do it, because you can't. I saw PD Newman nicely sent me some images from a book of a guy that had seen something similar, but he thought it was based on 6. Like a hexagon,
Right.
and rather than a septagon, and you can see it's close. The loads of closest. You're so close there, mate. But none of them line up. That they're all a distance off. Whereas this is just.
So we're saying that the location of these pins and how they're derived is derived from the main pattern.
That pattern, yeah. I'm imagining doing it with pins. The reason why I'm saying pins and string is medieval times, and in those Visconti cards, if we go forward 1 or 2 or 3, well, can you see in the one on the left? There's a hole in the top of the card.
Oh, right.
And
Like a
they're all
puncture
like
mark.
that. Yeah, they were saying because they must have hung it up. I'm like, that's really nice paintings. You're not going to do that. And the more I look later, it seems like it might be the place where they put the initial kind of pin in it to start doing it all. If it is pins, it might
The
be
place where they nailed the serpent at the top
to
of
start.
the card.
Yeah, to put it through the. Oh shit, Phil. That's going to keep me up tonight. That statement.
Hey, tell you what, I'm due one. I'm due blowing your mind.
Flipping heck.
Oh, for once.
And I'm appreciative.
Nail the head of the serpent card.
Right, so I know it looks complex, but I hope I've trained your minds a little to look for these things now. You don't need to look at the pattern. You look at the underlying image, and like say, if we got the fool on the left here, these are all fool cards from different years. So what his left arm, as the arm on the right. You just follow the contours of his body, and you'll see that everything is dictated by these lines precisely, not a millimeter away, not, if it's a curved line, of course, it's going to dip in or dip out or dip below. That's the nature of a curve. But every single gesture is dictated by those lines. The fool in the middle, we can just follow the line of his bum there with his skirt on. You can look at his chin. You look at his arm stretching out. You can look at the angle of his stick that he's holding in his right hand.
Yeah.
It's the line on the pattern literally runs parallel.
And
down the back of
honestly,
it.
if I was looking at that middle card without the lines, without the pattern on it, it would look unnatural.
It does look unnatural.
It looks unnatural. It looks deliberate.
Yeah. Again, this is Alistair Crawley's card on the right, just showing that the tradition, with those that knew, the tradition was carried on.
Did he know?
What?
Did he know? Or was he just borrowing Crowley when he did his deck?
Well, you must know something for this. I think people underestimate Crowley too much, to be honest. Okay, he's an easy figure to take the piss out of because he's a pop culture figure as well.
Yeah.
But
And he was a twat,
yeah, but
by all accounts.
most of the stuff he was doing wouldn't be seen as twattish these days, though, would it? Most of the things. I'm not. I don't think he's a good person.
He'd probably get his own reality show.
He probably would. I don't think he's a good person. I don't particularly like him as a person, but I've gotten lots of information from him that's once you bloody decode the fucking thing, because he's a pain in the ass with that. Yeah. But there you go. You can see it's pretty clear on that Crowley one on the right that's been drawn with that. And again, I think what they're doing is, yeah, all these things fit, and then they'll shift it a little bit and then draw the rest of the things. So if you can see that he is obviously drawn with that image. A few of the things around there are slightly out, but if I just took that pattern and then shifted it down a bit.
I'm guessing, would these have been drawn larger and then scaled down, do you think?
I think for the wood blocks, so for Crowley's card, yes, you drew them on big sheets.
Right.
For the guy, this dude in the middle, I'm not sure. For the Visconti on the left, it was just hand painted. Probably not, just for the amount of time it would take first. But if you know the pattern, it's gonna. You just draw. What if it were me? I'd like. Oh, this is how I did it when I did my tarot. draw an image, kind of what I want, slam it under the pattern, redraw it with the pattern. You know, this line's close enough, this line close enough. Now I've got my image to the pattern. That's how I would do it.
So you incorporated it into your own tarot deck?
Yes, I did, yes.
Wow, nice one.
If we go on to the next image, please. We can see his table's drawn with it. You know, again, it's just another way of breaking it down. This, I didn't realise how hard it'd be to see, to be honest, but I've done so many in a week, it's killed me. Again, this is the Visconti deck, and it's drawn with this same pattern. You know, the limit and angle of everything is dictated by these lines.
Yeah.
Next one, please. There's the Lover's card that we've seen before. I've black and whited the Hermit a bit just for anyone to trace all the lines.
Bit of contrast.
Yeah, you can look at, you know, because there's circles on there and stuff like that. You can see the rim of his hat is dictated by his circle. The actual shape of his hat, the conical shape at the top, is dictated by the lines. His belt is a line. His hand.
The length of his ear.
Yeah, the shape of his face. Look at the timepiece. You know, the hourglass is literally within an hourglass shape. That's an X shape defining the timepiece.
Fab.
It's undeniable. Look at that. There's an X on it. There's an X on it. The two trumpets crossing form an X. My pattern's got a fucking X. Everything. Even God's eyes in the middle. You'll notice on a lot of them, one of the characters is shifted off to one side. And it's usually the central character. It's so they can get one eye in the middle.
Yeah, one eye. Osiris, Odin. Oh, famous for having... Sorry, Horus, Odin. Famous for being one-eyed gods.
Because one eye points out and one eye points in.
That's fantastic.
There's the world card, the final card in this deck. Again, it's turned out a little dark compared to what I was reading. But if you look at the one at the top right, that would be New Jerusalem, or you know the heaven, you know,
as defined in the Book of Revelation.
Yep.
Right.
This is thingy. The guy. What's his name again? John Michel Jarre. John Michel. John Michel called his book that he put this in the New Jerusalem. He called this the New Jerusalem pattern. I think it's the Philosopher's Stone or something like that. Yeah. But geometrically. But you can see that castle there, the heavenly castle's defined by what looks like a hexagonal shape. You know, a stretched out hexagon. And it's the same with the kids at the bottom. I think I've done enough to prove that this pattern is in those cards. If we go on to the next one. Right. So here's the very final section, and I'm going to compare all this to Mithraism. These are the Rider-Waite famous modernish deck. So I can explain the Mithras liturgy. The Mithras liturgy, you've gone up. Okay, so the Mithras liturgy is in something called the Greco-Papyri Magica, which is a collection of old magical texts. In there is what's called a liturgy, which is almost like a...
Sorry, dating from when? Is it Roman times or is
it...
Right
well, it's difficult to tell because they're not going to write the dates on there. And it's a collection. Yes, Roman times, but that's as specific as I can get with you.
That's fine.
Probably from Egypt. It's probably gone all the way over to Egypt and written by an Egyptian priest.
Okay.
Right. In this liturgy is a poetic version of a trip. You know what I mean by a trip? During that trip, he goes through several stages that correlate to these cards in the tarot. Talks about becoming a star. We talked about just drawing down the stars before, or the stars coming down here to put the power there, or indeed us becoming a star and going up. We all know what it means, a star, you know. He's a star. She's a star. You kind of rising above everything. You're the cream of the crop. You rise to the top, etc. I thought Phil was going to carry on.
No, I'm not
spitting
tonight.
Do it.
I'm not spitting any.
So a lot of that's to do with cleanliness and stuff like that to turn into a star, and that's the nature of the star card. You kind of clean yourself off and it becomes a portal.
Is it Aquarius as well?
It's Aquarius,
water bearer,
yeah, all that stuff. The water bearer is really the drug dealer or the antidote carrier. or a priestess that's going to clean you off. And the star person's normally a lot more hermaphroditic than that. So at one point in the Mithras liturgy, they become a star and go off into the stars. They go through, they interact with the moon. They interact with the sun. They look at the sun, and to get the portal to rise, they stare at the sun. And it says in the liturgy, when you stare at the sun, a funnel will come out of the sun. It seems weird. Young's talked about this. It didn't make much sense to me. But a funnel will come out of the sun, and you're going to go up that funnel and go to the back of the sun, baby. Like, go through the sun. Look at that judgment card there with the angel with the funnel coming out at the front. Then it moves on, and it's saying that you meet a higher end, but we've already gone through the moon and the sun, and we've gone up the poles. They meet the 7 pole lords and the 7 pole ladies. And then you go beyond that, and then you come into the realm of Sol and Mithras, which are presented very much like being the sun and the moon. And they're also presented as being drugs. One of them's golden with brown trousers or gold trousers, and the other one's white, wearing white and red, you know, like the Amanita muscaria mushroom. So you go through the experience, you go to the Platonic realm, you ask Mithras to give you some prophecy, and then you come back again, right? You go through the Lion, the Bull, the Eagle, and the Man, and all that stuff, and then you come back reborn through Sophia. That's Sophia there on the
Really?
right, holding 2 poles.
You've come back with some wisdom.
Yes,
Never.
she's holding 2 poles. She got that snake wrapped around her. And that laurel, we often see people crowned with a laurel wreath. Do you know what happens if you chew laurel?
Imagine you get high.
Yeah.
She took her clothes off. She took her clothes off in the middle of the sky. Who does that unless they're on laurel? And around them we got the Lion, the Bull, the Eagle, and the Man, which is very, very, very interesting if you look into that. But if you're looking at a previous episode, you can check that out.
That sun image is kind of freaking me out with the
Little boy.
No, the actual sun in the sun image. It's like the black sun. The interpolation between straight lines
And wiggly lines.
which would be a certain path.
Yeah.
And then the wiggly lines, which we see represented in
Saturnian, yeah. Yeah. Well,
Saturnalia.
you could call it Satanism now, because Satanism...
Black sun,
yeah.
black hole sun. Anybody?
Yeah.
Any Sound Garden fans in?
Yeah, that's the sun behind the sun that powers this sun. It's the black sun is Eros. It's the source of power.
From a psychological standpoint.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the light that lights your dreams. That kind of an idea. Next one, please, if there is any. Right, this is the very last thing. Right, it's cool. We got 3 images just to go over this, and this is really triple cool. I wanted to go over this a previous time, but we couldn't see it. But we can now. Right, so we've had these 2 poles. We've said there's the pole of the Earth, and then there's the pole of the rest of the cosmos, which is skewed off, and that's the one we've been interested in. Now, we know where the pole of the Earth points. It points to the pole star. But where does this other pole point to? Surely that would have a pole star as well. It does. It's in Draco, like the actual pole, because they're only 23.5 degrees off if you're looking up, so they're not that far off each other. The actual pole star for the Earth is in Ursa Minor. So it's on the end of the handle of Ursa Minor, which is like there's a big plough and a little plough. Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. Around that wraps Draco, and if you look at most images of Draco from medieval times, it looks like an S. And they'll put like one plough there, one bear there, and then another bear there, or something like that. And it's showing you that the Draco's got the 2 poles wrapped in its coils. And I'm like, okay, this is getting interesting now. And then I remembered that, okay, so forget that when I was saying I remembered. We'll remember that in a second. But a chap called Reza Assassi had seen this second pole when he was studying Mithras, the cult of Mithras from Rome. And he looked at this area and he said, well, the only discernible asterism in that area we can see in the central panel is this kind of swastika-looking thing, which I filled out on the right. And when you look there, sure enough, yeah, that's the only real thing that sticks out, this pretty much swastika-looking thing. Now, we know the original swastika, conventionally, is the plough spinning around the pole. Well, here's another pole thing, so it would make sense that we get a second swastika. In fact, one that is in the opposite direction, which we also see in the east. Now, if we go to the next image, if we take that asterism and lay any tauroctony over it, the tauroctony is the main image of Mithras slaying a bull. If Pete, I keep calling you Pete tonight.
Oh,
I don't even know any
it's
Petes.
got a Pete tongue.
It's all going a bit. If you come a bit closer, you can see. Can you see where there are two glowing eyes, kind of a thing? Is there any chance you could turn those lights off just so you can have a look?
That didn't
The
work.
ring lights.
I can't do it from here.
Can you
No.
not do it from here?
I can see what in the dark square.
So yeah, in this darker square, I'll get up and
We need a pointer. Would you like to use one of these?
right.
I'll
I'm
give
going to
you-
just
I'll
talk to
give
Phil
you-
for 2 seconds, and I'll shout to everybody else.
I've given Ryan a truncheon with a Star of David atop it for him to signal
Right.
what he's pointing at.
There's one eye there, another eye.
Oh, right, like cat's eyes there
Yeah.
in the middle, yeah.
This is the back of Mithras. Here's his cape. The bull's here. The bull's
Oh my gosh, I can see the end of his cape.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Here's his shoulder.
Yes,
There's his hand reaching out, stabbing the bull. The bull's
That's-
eyes where that orange star is there.
the bull is underneath. That's right in the middle of the image, near enough.
At home, they'll be able to see it.
Yes, if you watching this in a dark room, you'll be able to see the famous tauroctony image, which is ubiquitous. It's always the same
always there,
image
yeah.
represented. I can see it now. Now
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you pointed out those references, I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
see the horns of the bull and everything.
Yeah, so
His
Mithras two
Phrygian
eyes.
cap.
Yeah. So if you go to the next image, those are magician cards. The first card from 3 different decks. The one on the right is Aleister Crowley's Magician. Then we've got the Visconti Magician. I've put them in negative so we can see them more easily. And one from the right, I think that's D'Este, something like that. And those stars dictate the main shapes of the image.
Those same 2 stars every time.
Well, not just the 2, but can you see where?
No, I mean that's your reference
That's my
point.
reference. Yeah.
Sorry,
Can everybody hear me? Yeah. So
your reference
so that-
point is those cat's eyes.
So
What constellation are they in?
it's a hidden. It's like it's the. I had no idea. I've been studying tarot for years. You know, these are discoveries. They're not. It's not like I've read it in a book or anything. Most of this podcast is my own discoveries. You know, spend 5 minutes. God, spend 60 seconds with those and see how well they line up. The tarot is not a game. The tarot is not only a game. The tarot contains the mysteries of the ancients.
I just want to check what do those in the tauroctony? What do those 2 eyes represent? Because it's not Mithras's eyes, is it?
Yeah, those are the eyes of Mithras. He's
Is it?
looking over
I
his
thought
shoulder.
it,
Yeah.
right. Oh, he's looking up right. It looked
I mean,
too
can you
high.
zoom in? You might be able to see if you zoom in.
It looked too high. I might be able to. Oh, I don't want to fuck with it. I don't
Okay.
want to fuck with
Yeah,
it.
no worries.
I'll look tomorrow.
I believe that's the last slide. Can we just check if there's one more?
We're back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty wild.
That, yeah.
You've
Dig?
given me a lot to think about. That's for certain. Ryan.
What I would like to say as far as the type of evidence I've used, obviously there aren't many first-hand sources. You're not going to get any for the mystery traditions, not really. Not many people profaned the mysteries. However, I believe that, are you listening? I believe that I've shown through as close a methodology as I could via geometry and mathematics, the majority of my proofs. The only ones that don't fit into that category are the mushroom things, because obviously that depends on our interpretation to some extent. But I don't think it takes much interpretation to say that those 2 mushrooms on the hermit's hat are indeed Amanita muscaria.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say really. I'm gonna have to watch this back several times, I think, to soak it all in. But yeah, it's very interesting.
We got there. We got through 44 slides then.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks
Oh,
for
mate.
coming.
I tell you what, I've worked hard on that all week.
We appreciate it. Appreciate you putting the time in, the effort in.
I just like coming and talking to you lot.
Yeah, maybe can we do at some point? Can we do a podcast without slides,
I'd love to
like
just.
a Q&A type thing?
I
or
think,
something?
yeah, totally would love to. Let's do it
that.
soon. Yeah, no, I'd love to just have one
Next
where-
week.
We're booked up till what? Middle of October. I'm not joking.
No, I
we're
believe
booked
you.
up.
No, just get me in when you can, and we'll come and
Christmas,
have a
Christmas special.
few too many.
Yeah.
I think would be fun as well.
Yeah.
Saturday
Well-
night special.
Saturday night. Junior special?
Yeah.
Chicken special?
Mm.
Right, we're going to wrap up with...
Look-
we shall be back very soon for some very swift news. There's some things that cannot wait till next week. We need to do them.
Right.
I'm afraid, Matt. So, Matt, I'm afraid. What time do you start work tomorrow? You're late start tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's my turn to get up, so I have to get up at 7.
Oh,
no.
well, same here. Gosh, what's new?
I'll be up
Right.
at
Why
7.
you asked?
Still up.
Show notes. Check out Ryan's channel on YouTube. And if you want more of this sort of information, we've done hours of it in greater depth, less pushed for time. I appreciate your brevity, Ryan.
That was that good word, that, isn't it? And was the modus operandi for the entire thing.
It was great.
Just a shade over 2 hours.
Was it?
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging around.
Right, stand by, you lot out there. We'll be back very shortly for part 2.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.